Right, hello everybody. As the next episode of Dr. Dave Regis's openings course for newer or beginner players. And I say, well, I mean, that's what it's designed for, his opening repertoire. I have to say, I think it's pretty good for anybody of pretty much any level, actually. It's a great resource. So we're very grateful to him for letting us turn it into videos. Now, in the first couple of episodes, starting with E4, E5 openings, we'll look at others later. We looked at this kind of idea with an early d4. And if takes, we then were playing bishop to c4. So with a real eye on this square, maybe getting the knight here, really going after this. In some cases after this, we play c3. Sorry, bishop here first, maybe bishop c5 and then c3. Really opening lines, getting aggressive, trying to open the center. But what we did learn was that if black is careful and knows what they're doing, they can equalize. They'll get squashed if they don't know what they're doing, if they make a mistake. But if they're careful and they don't do anything stupid, then yeah, black's okay. So maybe there's an alternative. So instead of an early d4, in the next couple of videos, we're going to look at what happens if white plays bishop to c4. Now there is here knight f6, and then all sorts of things can happen, but we'll look at that later on. But a very normal move for black here, bishop c5, and the computer analysis, tiny advantage to white, blah, 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 blah. It's perfectly normal. White should have a slight advantage from the opening. And normal moves in this position would be to put the knight here, put the pawn here, probably there, so you don't get a bishop on this square, get castled, blah, blah, blah. Gioco pianissimo. Sometimes white will play c3 and then d4, having castled, and that's a gioco piano. And they're fine. Obviously, they're fine. They're the top three moves, according to the computer. But if you want a slightly more exciting game, slightly more risky game, a slightly more open game, then there is a great gambit you can play here. And that's what this video and the next one is on. So 5 games this time, 5 games next time, on what's called the Evans Gambit. And it's this move, b4. Well, what on earth is the idea of this? Now, you can see from the bar, it's, the computer will say tiny advantage to black with best play, but we're not computers. And if black isn't very careful, they will get savaged, as you're going to see in the next 10 games. So what's the point of this? Well, first of all, if black just retreats, then white's happy with life. You've just gained some space and, we move on with our lives. You can play knight takes. It just happens that it's not the strongest move. You can do it. And it doesn't change a lot with what comes next. The best move is bishop takes. But now we've distracted the bishop from this diagonal, and we can gain time against it with c3 and then shortly afterwards d4. And so what white's trying to do is use this bishop to gain time to create a really big center and then have lots of quick development and space. Okay, and there are some lines where, for example, say the bishop goes back here, where the bishop being here might be dangerous because you can't castle through check. So it could be a way to catch the king in the middle of the board, stuff like that. So that's where we're at. That's what we're doing. We've got the Evans Gambit. And so I'm just going to put a new analysis board up, and we've got 5 games to look at today. So I would say about the Evans Gambit, a bit like the Scotch Gambit we've seen in the first 2 videos, if black knows what they're doing, they're fine. But it's quite a tightrope to walk, and you can easily go very wrong very quickly. So here's our first game. We're in Finland in 1996 for players called Kilti and Meskanen. I have no idea if they're masters or just local players, but who knows. Bishop c4, bishop c5. So this is all normal stuff. And so instead of simple, safe, quiet developing moves, white goes in for the Evans Gambit. Okay. So bishop takes, c3. Just keep your eye on the analysis bar as well. And in this game, the bishop goes back to e7, which is okay. It's perfectly reasonable. It's got to go somewhere because it's attacked. And white plays d4. So we've given up the b pawn, but for this big center, that's the whole point. Knight to a5. I can understand that. It looks like you're gaining time against the bishop. Okay, well, the bishop moves, bishop to e2. Okay, fine, still okay. Very, very level, you can see from the bar. And then we get this move. Watch the bar. And up it goes. Right, so this is a mistake. The most natural developing move you could possibly imagine in the position, bring out the knight, and it's wrong. And it's wrong because of this. We've got an unprotected piece over here, remember? So pawn takes pawn, gaining time against the knight. This knight has to move. Knight to here. And now we have a winning move, queen to a4, because both knights are undefended and the queen attacks both. You can't save both knights. And at a high standard of chess, once you're a piece down, you're probably best to just pack in and go home. Best move for black's probably just to take here and actually try to at least get a pawn for your knight. So what's called a desperado, but then that's quite an amusing move. Just castle, and now both knights are attacked again, and there's no way to save them both. And so black resigned after queen a4, after this move in the game in this tournament, black resigned. Just bear in mind, in this position, absolutely level. I'm guessing you can probably play d6 is okay. Yeah, look at that. The bar says still basically a level game. But knight f6, a really natural looking move, and suddenly black's in trouble. And that's just typical of what you get from the Scotch Gambit and the Evans Gambit. That you can pounce on black really quickly if they mess up. So let's have a look at our second game today from Dr. Dave. It's a bit of a longer game. We've got 17 moves before black is toast in this one. But let's see what happens. I've got no names for the players this time. It's just unknown players. So e4, e5, knight f3 attacks the pawn. Knight c6 is the most normal move because it defends the pawn. Bishop c4, so remember we like to target that square. Bishop c5 because black also likes to target this square. And here's our Evans Gambit. So bishop turn, you see it's pretty level. Computer's saying pretty level. So bishop takes, black takes the pawn, it's the best option. c3, and this time the bishop goes back to where it came from, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. So it's back pointing at that move. Pointing at that square. And white castles. So before playing d4, white wants to get the king to safety, which is fine. And knight to f6. Okay, well, the bar's just crept up a little bit now, look. So, okay, but still pretty level. So knight to f6. And here comes this d4 move. We get it all the time. Big center, open the middle of the board, get your pieces onto the open lines. That's the whole idea of this sort of gambit style of chess. Open the board, open the lines, get your pieces into the game. So black decides that the best bet here, the bishop's attacked, so you can retreat to one of those two squares, but black decides to play pawn takes pawn. And this is where the problems begin. You can see the analysis bar creeping up because there's two pieces defending this, but three, not that one, but three, or that one, but three attacking it. So pawn takes pawn, and look at this lovely white center. And we're still attacking the bishop. So the bishop's got to go somewhere. All right, so the bishop goes to b6. So what we got here? Well, white's got a lovely center. We've got nice open lines. The king is safe. And we've got all of that at the expense of just one pawn. So now we need to start gaining some time. So e5. White attacks the knight. Something's got to be done. You've either got to move the knight somewhere, but there's nowhere very appealing to put it, or you can try the move that black played in the game, and black played d5. So he ignored one threat and created another one, but it doesn't work. Pawn takes knight, pawn takes bishop, and here we go. We've got the black king trapped in the center. So now a series of attacking moves. We're not going to give black any time to breathe. Rook here, check. Okay, well, you can play bishop here, but it's not going to be great. You're going to have moves like this and like this. It's not going to look so pretty. I'll just put that on and see what happens to the bar. Sure enough, yeah, not good. So black plays quite rightly the only way to get out of check that isn't rubbish, which is king f8. Okay, what are we going to do? The king's on a black square. We need a piece that moves on black squares, and we want to gain some time. So bishop to a3, check. Okay, well, there's nothing we can sensibly put in the way. You can't put the bishop in the way or the queen in the way, whatever. So king to g8 happens. All right, we're getting somewhere as white. What are we going to do next? Well, white wants to put the bishop here, but the knight's protecting. So we'll play d5. We'll kick the knight out of the way because the knight's now under attack. So black moves the knight, as you would. But it doesn't look very pretty. Computer thinks that perhaps there were better places to put it. And white jumps in here. So once again, attacking something. So all of white's moves gain tempo, as we say in chess. So what that means is they create a threat. And so your opponent has to then deal with the threat. It reduces their options because they're busy dealing with something that you've attacked. So in this instance, we've attacked the queen. The queen's got to move. And remember, the bishop's protected. So the queen does move, goes to d7. Fine. All right, let's play another attacking move. So pawn takes pawn is attacking the rook. And obviously you can't allow pawn takes rook, so black captures the pawn. Now the next move is a bit harder to spot, queen to d2. It's not that it's going after the knight because the knight's defended. What it's actually threatening, and there is a threat, is to go here, which is checkmate because the bishop's guarding the only escape square. So black has to prevent queen here and does so by playing not that, which that would be cheating, does so by playing queen to g4. Okay, so this is now saved. So what can white do now? Where's white's next threat? Well, queen to c3 is check. And the king doesn't have very many moves at all. And in fact, if the king goes anywhere, if king goes here, you can just play queen takes rook. If nothing else, there's probably something better, but you just win a rook straight away. So the king goes back to guard the rook. So I'll just say now, if you want to try to find white's next move that will win the game within 3 moves, I think mate in 3, feel free. Hit pause and have a go. Otherwise, I'm going to carry on in 3, 2, 1. And in fact, the defense of this rook is completely illusory. Queen takes, rook wins the game. Only legal move now is to play king takes. Bishop here is check. Well, there's now 2 ways you can escape the check. One is to put the queen in the way, but then rook here is mate because you've got nothing to put in the way. And of course, you can't put the queen in the way because it's pinned. And the other option is to go king here. But at that point, rook there is just checkmate because the bishop guards the escape square. So yeah, ouch. And yet again, all I would say in this is that right up and to a certain point in the middle of the game, black's absolutely fine. So even after knight f6, you know, +1 is a bit better for white. So I would say black should play something other than knight f6. But it's okay. But it's just you've got to be so careful against these gambit lines if you're playing the black side of things. And that's why they were so popular back in the days pre-computers. You can't play these gambits against computers. They're just too accurate. But playing against other human beings, putting them under pressure with these kinds of sacrifices and going after their king, you can win some pretty cool games. All right, let's look at our third Evans Gambit game. And Dr. Dave doesn't have the names of the players for us this time, but that doesn't matter. It's only a 9-move game. Okay, so e4 and e5, and the same thing, knight f3, knight c6, bishop to c4, bishop to c5. And here's our Evans Gambit with b4. Black knows the right move, white knows the right move, and black tries bishop c5 again. And white castles first. Remember, sometimes white will often castle before playing d4, just to keep the king safely in the corner. And knight f6. Okay, still pretty level, perfectly reasonable. d4, white's played the move that white wants to. Bishop to b6. Ah, okay. This could be a problem. I believe it's not the best move in that situation, but okay, let's see why. D takes e5. So we're now threatening the knight. And remember, our knight defends that pawn. Okay. So right here. Well, what's the problem here? Why is this suddenly shot up to be +4? once again, if you want to find white's winning move, white's best next move, feel free to press pause and I'll carry on with the video in 3, 2, 1. And the problem is this knight is undefended, and this square that's always the theme in these kinds of openings is very, very weak. So queen to here, and we're threatening queen takes pawn checkmate, and we're also threatening queen takes knight. And there's really nothing black can do to save the knight. The best thing black can do is castle, because now that square is defended, but then you've obviously lost the knight. So once again, it's always this one bad move and you're in trouble. I'm just going to put the lines back here. Now, in this situation, bishop to b6 is clearly not going to do the trick. But at least if you play bishop to d6, ugly as it is getting in the way of this pawn, at least the game carries on. But it's not great. You have to be so careful playing against gambits. All right, let's have a look at our 4th game here. We've got 5 in each video, give or take, sometimes 4, sometimes 6, but 5-ish. And this one's going to be a resignation on black's 10th move. So what on earth happens here? So we're in somewhere called Klatovy, and white is a player called Novi, black is a player called Sushi, but I don't know them, so I have no idea if they're any good. We'll just turn that off for a sec. So e4, e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, bishop to c4, bishop to c5. Here's our Evans Gambit. Bishop takes c3. And in this game, black tries the odd-looking bishop d6. And it's odd because it blocks this pawn in. But it kind of is understandable because it adds another defender to this one. And actually, the computer says, no problem at all, it's basically level. So the computer's okay with bishop to d6. White this time smashes the center open before castling, takes, then castles. White's quite happy to give up another pawn, purely because after pawn takes pawn, I guess you've got nasty moves with queen d5, knight takes c3, so white just ignores it. And black tries to, rather than taking the pawn, black goes with knight to a5, so hitting the bishop. Okay, well, queen to d4 actually isn't the best move, as it turns out, because after knight takes bishop, if you play queen takes here, queen here is fine. It actually defends everything because the knight's defending. But black doesn't do that. Black plays f6. And there's our inaccuracy for the game. Watch the bar. Well, how do we take advantage here? I'll give you a clue. This is an undefended piece. How can we set up a situation to take advantage of it? So if you want to have a quick go at finding the best move for white, feel free. Otherwise, we'll carry on in 3, 2, 1, and the best move, bishop takes knight. What? We just take it back. Well, we do, but now queen to here is attacking the undefended rook and is attacking the undefended knight. And there is, of course, no way to defend both pieces. And at a higher level of chess, when you're a full piece or a rook down, more often than not, you're going to resign because there's no compensation, as we say here in chess. If there was some other strength to make up for it, you might play on, but there's no compensation here. So in the game, black resigned. All right, one more Evans Gambit, I think, for this video, and then we will stop for now. So nice new analysis board. And we haven't got the players for this one, but it ends on move 13. So, okay, let's see what we get. So e4, e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, bishop to c4, bishop to c5, b4. Now, in this game, black decides not to take it. It's too risky, not doing it, and back he goes. And white doesn't mind that. White decides to play a4 with all sorts of threats, not least just trapping the bishop, because if you get to go here, the bishop ends up here, and then c3, where does the bishop go? So that's played, and black doesn't particularly want that to happen. So a6, because then there's an escape square for the bishop. And that is, in fact, is exactly what happens, a5 and bishop a7. But white just keeps on going. b5. We attack the knight and attack the pawn. All right. Black decides to take, white takes. Okay. Black just develops, knight to f6. Okay, nothing wrong with this, still nice and level. Now, remember I said, or if I didn't, I should have at one point, this bishop coming here can be a bit of a pain because black now can't castle. But actually, computer says this is still okay for black. So where on earth is this going to go wrong? Well, knight takes e4. Okay, fine. Queen to e2. Well, maybe there's something going on here. Queen on the same line. Knight takes here because it's protected by the bishop. Look at black diving in. Uh-oh. It's starting to go back to level. Okay. Well, knight takes e5 because now there's the possibility of this knight moving out the way and a nasty discovered check. Okay. Knight to d4. Uh-oh. What? Look at that bar. What's happened there? Oh, well, okay. That's not very good. Well, what actually happens? This happens. Knight takes d7. What? That loses a queen. Well, okay. Knight takes queen. Let's have the queen. There's nothing else you can do as black anyway. The game's lost. And now, what's white's next move? There's checkmate here. White can actually checkmate on this move. If you want to try and find it, feel free. Video to carry on in 3, 2, 1. And the correct move is here, checkmate. You can't play pawn takes knight because it's actually a double check. So the king is the king is attacked twice. Okay, so obviously the king can't go here because the knight and the bishop attack that square. And do you remember that bishop that we put down here a little while ago? Well, he's guarding those ones. So if you take the knight, bishop takes king, so that's no good. And you can't move the king anyway. So, oh my goodness, what a horrible, horrible finish. If we just go back a little bit, let's put the lines on the board. After bishop a3, black's okay. Knight takes e4 is fine. Even, I don't even think knight takes f2 was too bad. So slight advantage to white. But it's always that black's just busy neglecting getting castled and getting themselves into trouble. The best move here is given as bishop takes f2. So protected by that. And then I guess the king has to move. And yeah, black's, it's better for black now in this position. You can probably play f5 or d5. It's, yeah, either of them to defend the knight. And then black's doing very, very well. But it's a classic line in the gambit. If you don't quite get it right, you will lose. Anyway, I'm going to go back to the final position because I think it's quite funny. Double check and mate. A discovered double checkmate. Unbelievable. And we'll leave it there for the day. And I'll be back soon with some more of Dr. Dave's opening repertoire with a few more of these exciting Evans Gambit games. See you all soon. Thanks for watching.